The latest Pelicans trade rumors tell me something really important. This franchise might actually get it. They're not just dumping players, they're prioritizing first-round picks, and they're clearly not trying to rush the timeline. It's Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Friday, a game day for the Pelicans. They play the Memphis Grizzlies at home, 6:30 tip-off, by the way, a little bit earlier. But we're talking all trade rumors. The trade deadline is less than a week away, and this latest batch of rumors tells me something really important around this team, and it's honestly maybe the most optimistic I've been about the state of the franchise this whole season. They might actually get it, and I'll explain why the latest rumors communicate that to me. We'll look at that. We'll look at the latest updates on Yves Missi, on Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, everybody on this team, because there's a lot of rumors right now. Let's break it all down in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And of course, thanks for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 12,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well, and become an everydayer. It means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can also watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, same place you watch your Pelicans play. So let's get into the latest rumors. This comes from a variety of places. We're going to look at friend of the show, Will Guillory of The Athletic, Mark Stein and Jake Fisher with the Steinline newsletter, Hoops Hype, Clutch Points. You're starting to see all the rumors around the Pelicans kind of say similar things. That tells you something. When the sources seem to be, when the people seem to be kind of saying the same thing, one, they could just be stealing from one another. But from who we're hearing, like I trust Will, I trust Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, it seems like everyone's kind of hearing the same thing. And it predominantly centers, pun intended, around Yves Missi. The Pelicans want a first-round pick for Yves Missi. They don't want second-round picks for him. I want you to hold that thought for the next segment, too. One of the big things I think that I've seen with this too, and we're going to circle back to this, is, they just don't think Yves Missi and Derik Queen are a fit. That's kind of telling. So first and foremost, look, I am fine with them trading Yves Missi. I see him as just a backup big man. I think that's kind of his ceiling in the NBA. He's a great offensive rebounder. He shows some ability in shot blocking, and that's really grown this season. I wouldn't give him away for pennies. I wouldn't trade him away for 2 second-round picks or anything like that, particularly not on a rookie contract. Will Guillory even kind of put out there that, he maybe is a little bit disgruntled because he's lost his starting spot. His minutes have gone down in favor of rookie Derik Queen. Sure. Okay. That's fine, I think. Look, if he wants to start and he's going to be unhappy here, and you can get a first-round pick for him, even if it's not the 21st pick or better, maybe it's the 26th pick, something like that. I think getting a first-round pick for him at this point is good. And it sounds like there's tons of teams that are interested in him as one of the better big men available. And so, yeah, if you can create a bidding war, whether it's the New York Knicks who have apparently asked about him, we know about the Indiana Pacers having interest, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Toronto Raptors as well, have all been very interested, it sounds like, in Yves Missi. Between all of them, that probably drives up the price. I do wonder how Giannis and his trade request is going to impact the trade market overall. Does it freeze it? But it doesn't sound like Toronto really was a realistic option there. The New York Knicks really don't have a path to getting him right now at the trade deadline, nor in the offseason either. So if that's going to be the case, they shouldn't not make a move. Yeah, opportunity cost is a thing, but those are all good teams that want to go further in the playoffs and increase their chances. So they should probably do something, and that might mean Yves Missi here. So if that can drive up the price, I think that's really great. That's important here. From the Mark Stein Substack, the newsletter. You shall really subscribe to this one. It's really worth it. Quote, the Pelicans sources say would specifically like to move Missi if the deal brings back a first-round pick for New Orleans in the upcoming June draft in hopes of selecting another top prospect alongside rookies Queen and Jeremiah Fears. Sources say that the Pelicans have already turned down at least one offer of multiple second-rounders for Missi. Good. I'm not saying he's untradeable. I think a first-round pick at this point, if he's not part of your future plans, that's fine. If you don't think he fits next to Derik Queen, fine, trade him. But I wouldn't just give him away. This should not be a fire sale just for the sake of having a fire sale here in New Orleans. This team needs to be smart with their management of assets, and they have not exactly done that this past off season. But it does sound like the front office, Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver, etc., do seem to kind of be getting it, I think, a little bit more. All first-round picks are not made the same, and truthfully, with the 25th pick, let's call it that, you're not selecting one of the top prospects in the draft to pair with Queen and Fears unless you feel really good about your scouting and finding a diamond in the rough, but the consensus is the consensus a little bit for a reason. So I slightly worry about where their head is at with this, but if Mevci's not part of the plan and you get a first-round pick from him, actually, it's pretty good work, I think, by the front office at this point. He needs to put on more muscle. He's not a tremendous defensive rebounder. He has he's very much improved, let's say, in shot blocking ability, rim protection, but I think there's limitations for him as a player. He's also still very raw. He's also still very young and has a ton of room to grow. You should not just give up on that guy to just give up on that guy by any stretch. He's been one of the more impactful players, I think, for the Pelicans this season, which, given the state of the roster, given how few wins they have, that's not exactly saying much. But it's better than being a non-impactful player on a bad team, which this franchise has plenty of those guys. So keep that in mind as well when it comes to kind of the Yves Missi trade rumors. It does sound like, though, there could be a little bit of a bidding war. This could also be negotiating in the media. But the people saying this, it definitely are people that I trust. So if they're saying those franchises are going after this player, other than Giannis right now, is there a player that's mentioned as much as Missi? Maybe Kuminga, but even that's kind of cooled down, it feels like. So when you look at this, like, Missi seems to be, it's kind of weird, right? Like, one of the hottest names on the trade market here, which, hey, that's cool if you can get really good value for him. I'd be somewhat sad to see him go for just second-round picks, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. So that's smart by the Pelicans. But I want to get back into something that's kind of coming out in these rumors that you're hearing everyone with this. We're really going to get into some semantics on this. They seem to really be prioritizing a first-round pick and acquiring a first-round pick in this draft. Now, you don't want to give up too much to get that, but you want me to do the Brian Windhorst thing. Why would they be prioritizing a first-round pick when, according to that quote from Steinline, right, the Pelicans, where did it go? Oh, no, I'll give you another quote for it, actually. Okay, so they're prioritizing a first-round pick. I got another quote. It's in my notes that I want to use in the next segment. That has to do with Zion and why I'm more confident in this front office than I've probably been over the past since they were hired. That's coming up here next. You want some optimism? This is why. This is coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment, the giveaways, Garden Gnome night. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. So that's why Game Time has become the go-to ticketing app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with you, the fans. So open up the Game Time app and look at the upcoming Pelicans schedule tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. Get your City Edition Garden Gnome, which is incredible, right? You can get your tickets locked down within moments here. And you're going to see the upfront pricing. There's no surprise fees at checkout. And if you're trying a different section than you've been to before, you can see the view from your seat before you buy, which is going to make the decision easy. So they also have great last minute ticket options too, and you're going to get solid prices all around. So everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the number one sports podcast network. Don't forget about the Everydayer Club. The trade deadline is here, and we want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help get you ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Pelicans fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league, talk all the latest trade rumors, tell people why their mock trade is terrible. You can also get an ad-free version of this show, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. So we're really going to kind of dive into some specific language, but I think it's important. Words matter. After all, as an English and creative writing major, I think I'm legally required to say that with my degree. So I'm going to read you more from the Steinline newsletter here. Quote, the Pelicans, sources say, would specifically like to move Missi if the deal brings back a first-round pick for New Orleans in the upcoming June draft in hopes of selecting another top prospect alongside rookies Queen and Jeremiah Fears, end quote. There's a massive focus, and we've heard this, on the Pelicans really being interested in a first-round pick in this upcoming draft. So I'm going to pose this to you, and we'll answer this question. Why? Why are they interested? Do I sound like a murder mystery podcast? Why would someone, I don't know, why do they want a first-round pick in this draft? We've learned rookies don't help you win. So you want to add another rookie when supposedly they're in win now mode or doing those kind of things? I'm going to read you another quote here. That's from the same Substack. Quote, as the market grows for the former number 21 overall pick, it's likewise become clear that New Orleans isn't just shopping Missi because he's a draft selection made by David Griffin's previous regime. It's because Missi is no longer viewed as a fit next to Derik Queen. Notice it says, or because Missi is no longer viewed as a fit next to Derik Queen. It's not so much that they're telegraphing, and that's end quote. They're telegraphing no, we're not just trying to trade Missi because we don't think he fits with Queen. We think he might. Notice in each of those two quotes that I read, there's no mention of Zion Williamson in that. It's a little surprising, right? It's not that because Missi is no longer viewed as a fit next to Zion Williamson, your presumptive power forward. No longer viewed as a fit next to Derik Queen. They want another top prospect in this draft to pair with rookies Queen and Fears. There's no mention of Zion Williamson in this whatsoever. That's incredibly telling to me, I think, here. And this is why I kind of feel good about the direction of the team. I think, and we saw it against the Oklahoma City Thunder, this team is very far away from just being a solid playoff team at best. I think next year you were to add John Morant to this. It doesn't fix their biggest issues of three-point shooting, of defense, rim protection, rebounding. And until you really start to address some of that, you're going to just be this same team. You're not going to actually be that good. I've seen people there's a good team here when healthy. No, I don't think so. And I think some of that's coaching too. But I also just think this team kind of sucks. It's the reality of the situation. So by prioritizing a first-round pick, to me, that says you're preaching patience, something we talked about in yesterday's show. You are not trying to accelerate the timeline and move things up quicker than they probably naturally should. That's actually encouraging to me. This is a team that's looking at natural growth. You should be trading away first-round picks if you're trying to get an impactful player to make you better next year. Not get a first-round pick. You're not going to get a first-round pick and then flip that for someone better than Missi. It won't happen like that. So this shows that this franchise, the front office ownership, whoever it might be, get the state of the team and where they are when it comes to everything. I'm going to sneeze here. All right, we're back. When I can hit the mute button, it works. They get that they're just not that good and that there isn't a quick fix for this team. When I was on ESPN Radio with Matt Moscona earlier this week, And when I've been on other places too, and people are like, what should they do? What fixes the team? There isn't one thing. There's no magic bullet here. And it sounds like the front office gets it now. There was a lot of hubris, I think, pride, that they could build a team quickly and look at how good we are. You know, the belief in someone like Jordan Poole and others was not that. And now I think they realize, oh, actually, maybe like this team isn't great. And good. Like, isn't that the first step? Like the first step to, realizing you have a problem is admitting you have a problem or something along those lines. This team, by trying to get a first round pick, by not really committing to Zion Williamson in any of this, even if they're keeping him beyond the trade deadline, that to me says like they've admitted it's not working, that they're not close. That's the first step towards building slowly and getting to where you need to be eventually. And I think after one more bad year next year, you can actually be there. We'll look at that more a little bit in the next segment. There is some downside to it, but it also just gets you out of the mess that you're in right now. You don't trade away an Yves Missi or a Jose Alvarado who's been linked with the New York Knicks a bunch and some other teams, or a Saddiq Bey. I've seen him linked to the Warriors. I've seen him linked to the Los Angeles Lakers. Those are all impactful rotation guys to this team. The team is better with those guys, all of them, on the court than off the court. Missi is a plus 9.7. Bey is a plus 4.8. Jose is a plus 3.6. By comparison, Zion is a plus 0.4. That's three of your top five most impactful guys. Missi, then Herb Jones, then Bey, then Murphy, then Jose. You don't trade all those guys, and they're all linked in things. If you want to be competitive next year, you're killing your depth, your bench, all of that. You won't have that. So they're only going to move those guys if they can get first round picks, I think, or really good value for them, because they know they're not going to be competitive next year. And they realize, hey, we might be bad, but we just need to let this kind of play out and let the rookies and Fears and Queen develop, because they have shown us something and they look like they can be core players going forward. This is an encouraging sign for a front office to basically not make a dumb move, in my opinion. And I've been going into this trade deadline terrified about what they might do. You've heard me kind of preach against the idea of John Morant. It'd be fun, yeah, but it doesn't make them better. And I don't want them to do that, because then look, I'd rather you be fun and bad than boring and bad, which is kind of what this team feels like they are right now. But how about you just not be bad in general and just be good? I'll take boring and good. I'd take that over fun and bad. I just want good to describe this team. And that's not how I think we would describe them next year if they make a win now kind of move. And then all of a sudden you don't have draft picks. And what do you do when you go through a rebuild? It's a tough balance. It's not easy to build a team here. Look at the Bucks with Giannis. You trade him away and like that team's going to be rough for a while when you don't control your own drafts, because you traded away those picks chasing them. At least they got a title out of it, but you don't want to be one of those teams that doesn't have anything out of it. And we've seen some franchises kind of in those states before. That's not good to be in at all. And the Pelicans look like that's what they were going to do for a while here. But these latest rumors, prioritizing a first round pick, Missi and Queen, not Missi and Zion, that is all encouraging. I still think they'll look to move Zion Williamson in the offseason. It's as simple as that. It might be harder if he guarantees 40 to 60% of his contract, which he's on pace to do. If he plays in 8 more games, he will probably have guaranteed 40% of his contract. And at that point, you're not going to just waive him and eat the money. You would need to waive him during the season to try and do it. And that would be a weird thing to do. But it doesn't sound like they're committed to building around him as much. They might say so, but I think they're just not moving him because his value is so low right now. I don't think he has much around the league. So patience, natural growth. Yeah, it might suck for a period of time, a year or two, but I think you can come out of that looking really, really good and being in a really good position. I just want this team to make the playoffs back-to-back years, like not through the play-in tournament. Just be the 6th seed or better 2 years in a row, and I would be thrilled. It'd be only the 3rd time ever in franchise history that they would have done that. So patience, growth, and building to that point where you can do that is very encouraging to me. Try and be like the Oklahoma City Thunder. There is a downside to that. And I want to get into it. It sounds great on paper, but there's a very big downside to that potentially. Let's look at that coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. So whether you're backing the favorites, the Seahawks, or riding with the Patriots who are the underdogs, or just building one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. So if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. So it's last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 12,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. Make Locked On Saints your second listen today. Ross Jackson is there at the Senior Bowl, getting up close coverage of draft prospects. It sounds like a lot of the Saints front office is there. Make Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson your second listen today. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there could be downsides to this patient plan. You know, yesterday, someone in the comments said, when I was like, you could get 2 top 4 picks, don't get involved with Giannis, and they shouldn't. Someone said in the comments, so like Fears and Queen hit that magic year 3, right? Where they can impact winning, but then you draft 2 top 4 guys and they don't help yet. They won't help for 3 years. So are you actually going to be better? I get that. Maybe I didn't explain that as well. The idea is Queen and Fears will be in year 3 with a Trey Murphy on the team, with Herb Jones on the team, when Fears and Queen can really help those guys. And now all of a sudden you have a group of four guys that can impact winning versus just 2 in Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. That's how you get good in this scenario here. Or you also just trade those potential top 4, 1 top 4 pick for a superstar level player along with Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Fears, Queen. And then you take an even bigger step forward. That's the vision here. That's how you get out of whatever this is that the team is in currently. But there is a potential pitfall with this. How long does someone like a Trey Murphy, like a Herb Jones, want to be part of this, of losing, of what feels at times like a dysfunctional organization? Missi feels disrespected is the quote that's making the rounds and wants to play. I've seen a new report today that Jordan Hawkins is open to finding a different team because he's not getting minutes. We talked about it yesterday where DeJounte Murray wants out. It's not like everyone's jumping a sinking ship because, well, like some of those guys aren't particularly great. But if you're prioritizing the slower timeline, and let's say no playoffs next year, not being good next year because you're kind of prioritizing your pick, is Trey Murphy fine not making the playoffs next year? He should have gotten more all-star consideration than he did, but because he's playing outstanding. But this team is bad, and truthfully, no one's watching them. No one's paying attention to them. So voters aren't going to give him the votes that he needs. They're not going to really see how good he has been, how much he's added to his offensive game. You might see a highlight here and there, but they're not going to see Trey Murphy completely like some of these other guys are. Is that what he wants? What about a Herb Jones? Herb Jones might be different because he's just kind of like a different human than most others. But, you know, at a certain point, are guys that you do want to keep and build around going to be like, yeah, get me out of here? You know, there are ways to sell it, and I think the Pelicans would need to prioritize doing that. You can try at least and sell Trey Murphy on this. You're going to tell him he's the number one option. He is the top guy, just plain and simple. He'll get as many shots as he wants. You tell him you're going to make him an all-star this year, and he's going to get the recognition, and then you plan to take a leap the next season, and he can still be kind of the leader of the team, the number one guy on the team. I think that could be a way that you sell him on it. Trey Murphy, really, when you look at it, guys who have played, is fourth in terms of usage rate. Tell him you're just going to up his usage rate insanely. All the shots for you, man. Herb Jones, who knows? But you tell Trey Murphy he's going to be the top guy. We'll make you an all-star next year. You will be the face of the franchise next season because we'll trade Zion in the offseason. And then in 2 years from currently, we're going to be good. We promise. If you sell him on that, that could be a way to do it. But I do wonder if eventually guys on this team are just going to be like, get me out of here. I'm sick of this. That doesn't sound particularly ideal. This doesn't really work if you don't have like a Trey Murphy kind of guy on your team. So there are potential downsides, pitfalls to this as well. But that's also kind of the case with any sort of team building. I don't see adding a John Morant or anyone at the deadline that's going to make you significantly better from where you are now. Maybe you won't be as bad as the team is, right? They're 12-37 here. You could maybe get to 20-30, but that's not going to do much for you. Like, that's not getting you into, deep into the postseason. That might get you to be the 11th seed. Does you no good. So I think being patient and at least drafting guys is more important and kind of building around Fierce Queen and Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. And I think you're seeing that kind of telegraphed with a lot of the rumors right now. This is why I'm more optimistic, at least about the long-term direction around this franchise, than I felt at any other point this season or even in this past offseason. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below on YouTube. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NolaJake on Twitter. Enjoy Garden Gnome Night. This is like maybe my favorite promotion. Someone snagged me one, doing the media thing, so I don't think I'll get one. But what a great promotion to Garden Gnome. I'm going to put that on my front lawn. See y'all on Monday to talk more trade rumors and recap the weekend.